Welcome to AUM. We are live and we apologize for the delayed wait there. I'm your host, Callie Fedosenko of Callie Collective, a digital marketing agency designed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience through data-driven custom content and advertising. Today, we're talking with Dr. David Dubofsky. Both David and his co-author, Lyle, have spent their 40-year careers researching and teaching business and financial practices. And to say they are a wealth of information is an understatement. In fact, you've probably read their articles in the Journal of Financial Planning or read their book, which was the second bestseller on Amazon, Your Total Wealth. Today, we're going to be picking David's brain on what he's learned about you, the financial advisor, and your clients, and how we can implement their findings into your client communications and marketing. Make sure to ask your questions in the comments as we go along. We'll see them on our end and answer them as they come in. So welcome, David. So happy to have you here. And
Thank
sorry
you
for the stress getting started.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least half of us have overcome this.
So David, you've done a lot of research on investors. What is your biggest takeaway about what they want in terms of a financial planner?
Okay, well, thank you again for letting us join you, or letting me join you anyway,
Yeah.
Callie. So back in 2008, 2009, Lyle and I conducted a survey of over 2,000 financial planners. And it was really an exploratory survey to find out about their non-financial life coaching activities, not financial planning, but rather life coaching activities. And we found some what I thought were at the time, very surprising results. Financial planners claimed that they spent 25% of their time talking with their clients about non-financial issues. And later, there was an updated survey that was conducted in Australia, and they concluded that 45% of financial planners' time was spent on non-financial issues.
Yeah, that's a big percentage.
It's a lot. I think a lot of people get into financial planning thinking that they're just going to manage portfolios, but in the end, they end up dealing with people's problems. It's so difficult for so many people to open up about their finances that once they open up about their finances, they'll open up about everything.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's actually a great point. And there was something, let me scroll through. I had a question about you specifically on that. Of course, I can't find it.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is that clients want more than just a financial planner. They want just about everything. They want a religious minister, a psychologist, a therapist, a counselor, because a lot of clients will reveal all of these financial planner. They want someone who's going to listen to them. They want someone they can trust. They want someone who's going to empathize with them when they reveal these problems.
Yeah. How can an advisor make their client, or maybe even a prospect, feel safe enough to open up about their finances?
You've got to listen.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake that a lot of financial planners and financial advisors make, is that when they meet with their clients, they do most of the talking. They should not. Particularly with a new client, more than 50%, maybe 60 or 70% of the meeting time should be spent. The financial planner should be listening to their client and learning about the client's goals, life situation, aspirations, and ultimately problems. And so the best way to you have to gain your client's trust just by listening and empathizing with them, practicing emotional intelligence, and just being there when they're needed, because their clients are trusting you and they're revealing a lot of. I mean, we found that about 1/3 of all financial planners said that their client told them a secret that the client said nobody else knows this.
Mm,
So
yeah.
they're opening up and revealing all of their personal issues and problems.
Yeah. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had someone on, and we talked about, major life events and how to market on that. And something he said was that we have two ears and one mouth, probably for a reason. So, it's,
That's a good line.
yeah, hearing that again, I think it just puts it more into focus that there's a huge part of what advisors do should be listening.
Mhm.
So that's great to hear. How would you say, how can an advisor let somebody know that they're trustworthy prior to meeting them?
Well, that's hard to do beforehand. I mean, you end up meeting the person, talking with them, and that's how you gain their trust. Before that, I mean, it's just salesmanship.
Yeah.
Um, but it takes a while to build that level of trust and openness to get your clients to actually speak about their needs, their wants, and their problems.
Yeah. Would you say that what their clients want is different from what they need?
Well, I mean, we've some of the issues. The clients, a lot of clients need the help. I mean, if you look at some of the issues which we asked about in our survey,
Yeah.
and people open up about all of their problems with their spouses, with their children, their own issues with drugs,
Mm.
divorce issues, and a lot of people, have problems, and so they do need help. And of
Mm.
course, most financial advisors don't have any sort of training in dealing with these issues.
Mm.
So, of course, you've got to listen, but you've also got to recognize that there's a lot of things you can't handle
Yeah.
because they've never had any sort of training or
Mm.
experience in dealing with these types of issues. They've learned about diversification in stocks and bonds,
Right.
but not to do when somebody is telling you, "I'm thinking about committing suicide," which
Mm.
has happened, we found,
Yeah.
with many
Wow.
financial planners. What do you do when one of your clients says to you, "I'm I'm so unhappy. I'm thinking of committing suicide."
Mm.
So you have to have, as a financial advisor, you have to have a list of trusted
Mm. Yeah.
experts that you can refer your clients to, and recognize that when you can't do everything, and you
Right.
should know what you can do. I mean, self-awareness is very important. Know what you can do. Your client should know what you can do, and if you can't do it, you get your client to an expert who can do it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the networking is huge for advisors then, so that they have that referral source. Have you found that financial advisors are not offering things that their clients wish they did?
Well, we did find, like I say, 89% of our respondents did say that they engaged in non-financial life coaching activities.
Hmm.
But one third of them said that that was not really part, they didn't do it deliberately. They did it because their customers wanted it. Their customers brought it up.
Mm.
Just in the course of conversation, they started bringing up these problems. So it's not like financial advisors deliberately offer these services that clients want.
Mm.
They're getting sucked into it because their clients bring up the issues. I mean, most financial advisors don't offer life coaching activities as part of their business plan.
Mm.
They do it because their clients bring up issues that they have to deal with as part of their job.
Right.
So, in terms of offering what clients want, I mean, I think a financial advisor has to uh, invest in their own time to learn how to deal with people's problems.
Mm.
Take courses in listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take courses in emotional intelligence and empathy, and um, you know, and that goes beyond the financial planning type of
Hmm.
skills you need, you also need people skills.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. So let's take a minute to talk specifically about high earners. Your co-author Lyle had posted that 36% of high earners report living paycheck to paycheck. I imagine that there's a lot of embarrassment and maybe even some shame for people in this situation. How can an advisor break the barriers, stopping these prospective clients from calling them because of that embarrassment? And then I guess on the other hand, do advisors want to work with high earners who live paycheck to paycheck? Do you have any insight on that?
I think that there's a lot of upside potential with dealing with these types of individuals. They're successful, obviously, they're high earners, but they have problems. They have spending problems or other types of problems where they're wasting their money away. So there's a lot of upside potential, but I think that financial advisors have to be prepared to fire their clients in the event that they have a client who just isn't listening to them and engaging in self-destructive activity.
Yeah.
I think a financial advisor like this has to just say to that person, listen, here's a reference for you. I urge you to go get the help that you need, because you do need help, but I'm not the person who can supply that kind of help. And, it's amazing that I read recently that 40% of all Americans, retired Americans, live on Social Security alone. Wow. And I just can't imagine living on Social Security. I mean, I'm on Social Security now. I would have a lot of trouble living if that was my only source of income. But I imagine that some of those people who are living on Social Security are high earners that squandered their money. Think of all the entertainment industry kind of people that made a lot of money, but somehow squandered it on bad investments, bad advice, and they're living in, paycheck to paycheck now, even though they might have made literally millions of dollars while they were a sports figure or an entertainer.
Yeah. And your book talks a lot about bringing both sides of the coin together. What you call it, life coaching, and the financial part. Could you give a little more insight into what your book is about and what inspired you?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Initially, Lyle and I just were having conversations. We were both University of Louisville professors, and we would just have conversations about how difficult it is for people to talk about money. My father never talked to me about our family finances, and it turns out that talking to people, a lot of parents don't even talk to the children. They don't talk to their spouses. So there's a lot of difficulty in talking about money. And of course, we did our survey and we found that, people are unhappy. They bring up their unhappiness to their financial advisors. I say people are unhappy. A lot of people are unhappy. A lot of clients. So, and of course, they lack financial literacy, and a lot of problems would be solved if people understood more. I think one of the reasons people don't like talking about money is they don't understand it. They don't understand financial jargon, financial terms. They don't understand what compounding really means or accomplishes.
Right.
And so when you have a financial advisor who's throwing out some of these terms, asset allocation or capital gains, they may not understand it. So our book, we call it Yin and Yang, and we have a nice, yin and yang kind of thing there. And what we did is we identified what we thought were the 74 most important terms in finance, and succinctly and clearly we defined on the left-hand side, if you open up the book, on the left-hand side, you read a financial term with a very clear, concise definition of that term and why it's important. And then on the right-hand side is sort of a life lesson in trying to get people to live more happy lives, be more spiritually attuned to their environment, and just enjoy life. And it's the essays, the right-hand side, the yangs on the right-hand side are linked to the left-hand side. So we sort of mesh this yin-yang financial literacy and life literacy kind of perspective that we really, when we wrote the book, we were writing it primarily for financial advisors to give to their clients. That was our vision.
Yeah.
Because clients lack financial literacy, and we see by our survey that many clients have problems. So we wrote this book with the idea of fulfilling both problems. One is providing financial literacy, and one is giving an uplifting essay on how to live a happier life.
Yeah, that's so great. And I believe we've got a QR code up on the screen if you're watching right now and would like to find out more about their book. I think it goes to Amazon, but go ahead and scan that and check out that book.
Currently, it's only $5.80 for the book.
Oh, that's
which
wonderful!
Is just amazing.
Yeah.
My royalty is higher than $5.80. So I don't know how Amazon's doing this.
Amazon, they got a lot of tricks up their sleeve. You also suggested that advisors should end planning sessions with clients not by asking, do you have any other questions, but with what about our planning session surprised you the most? Have you had any feedback from advisors who've implemented this, and how has it gone?
Well, I was telling my nephew, who's a pediatrician, about what we have been writing about the concept of loss aversion and how loss aversion, it's very important how you frame a question. If you frame a question in a positive mode, a gain mode, you're often going to get a different response than if you ask the same exact question in a loss mode, in a more negative mode. So framing your question is extremely important. And I mentioned that to him. And like I say, he's a pediatrician. And he gave me exactly this response that you brought up over here in this question, which was that as a pediatrician and you're dealing with your customer, your client, your patient, and you never close out your conversation by asking, do you have any questions? You asking that is basically shutting a wall down, because so often the person is just going to say no. They'll just shrug and say no more questions. They're just happy that it's over. But if you can force your client to say something, like what surprised you about this? What did you learn today? You're forcing the person to speak up, and furthermore, with the response that your client will give you, you'll probably gain more insight into your client's goals, life needs, financial needs, non-financial needs, which is so important. You're basically forcing your clients to open up to you in that way. So you really do stand to gain by asking, well, what have you learned? What surprised you about today's meeting? But just don't ask, do you have any questions? That's a very negative way of asking a question.
I love that. I'm going to try to implement that myself with my client meetings. What surprised you? Here's another question for you. What beliefs have you found investors carry that are just plain wrong and advisors should be aware of?
And Lyle and I, Lyle was a management professor, and he dealt with leadership and training. I'm a finance professor. So in terms of what is just plain wrong is individuals' ignorance about finance. They just don't understand basic terms. They don't understand. The power of compounding is just so tremendous. And the idea of getting started early, it's such a huge difference. If you can start saving when you're 20, you're going to have so much more money than if you wait until you're 25 and wait until you're 30. And there's a chart in our book.
Let me tell you, I was not very happy when I learned about this at 25.
And it means you have to save a lot more now to catch up. So in terms of what they believe, what they think they know, that's just plain wrong. I come at that question from a finance viewpoint, and there's a Stanford professor, Anna Marie Lusardi, and you can look her up, Anna Marie Lusardi, and she's at Stanford now, and engaged in a one-person campaign on improving the financial literacy of individuals. And she offers every year, she offers just three questions.
Yeah.
She claims these three questions will reveal whether a person has financial literacy or not. And they gauge it over time, and it's been basically flat. I mean, people's financial literacy is not improving. I think that most individuals, most clients would definitely benefit if their clients had more financial literacy and more understanding. They would open up, they would feel more comfortable meeting with their financial planner if they understood more about finance.
Do you remember what those three questions were?
I'll send them to you.
Yeah.
They were very, very simple questions. They were very, very simple questions. One of my favorite questions was, do you know that when interest rates go up, bond prices go down? And I used to tell my students when I taught, that this was a question that I thought that every student graduating from business school, I didn't care if you were a marketing major or a finance major, you had to know that if interest rates go up, if the required rate of return goes up, the value of things like fixed income instruments, bonds goes down.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, you don't graduate.
I wouldn't have graduated. I mean, I would now, but back then, no.
But one of the questions dealt with diversification. I'll send you the three questions. They're very, very basic, and more Americans can't answer two of those questions. 2 out of 3 questions, so it means they fail.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to take a quick second and pause. I want to make sure that our viewers know that we offer a membership called Savvy Advisor. That gets you access to documents, workshops, and courses. So use the QR code. Am I pointing the right way? Over there.
It's there,
yeah. And make sure to sign up. It's currently free. And you get access to lots of extra things that you can download. Okay, back to your research, David. You've both posted, you and Lyle have both posted about how personal, emotional finances are. And how once someone opens up about them, then they open up about everything else. What have you discovered as the reason most people don't share this information?
I think one reason is privacy. It's a very private matter. There's also a fear of judgment. If I reveal to you how much money I have or don't have, then if you have more, I'm worried. I fear that I'm going to be judged as a failure because I failed to have enough money to live on. Fear of control, loss of control. I think also there's, to some extent, if you have a parent, if your parents fail to talk to you about their finances, it's probably more likely that you won't talk about your finances. So there's a lot of personal reasons. Maybe in some cases, a parent is worried about being robbed. I mean, there's been crazy things that happen where you open up about something and somebody can plot to somehow steal the money from you. So there might be that fear.
Yeah.
But I think those are the primary reasons that most people don't like talking about money. They find it easier to talk about their sex lives, their private lives, their health.
Yeah.
But money it's been called the last taboo, and it's just difficult. Of course, if you're not on track to a successful financial situation, then you're going to end up with tears.
Yeah.
People are going to be unhappy because they've been spending too much and they're not saving enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think there's a way that, we've already kind of touched on this from the beginning, but is there something that we can do to make advisors can do to make people feel safe? There's listening, but is there something that they could say or do directly that might make someone feel like, okay, there's no judgment here?
I think training is very important because you don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
You could end up tipping that person into doing something even more destructive.
Mm.
So listening is definitely important, expressing concern and empathy, and offering, go out of your way. And if you have a trusted referral that you can give, offer that person's name and contact number. Even if you want to say, do you mind if I give your number to this person so that they contact you?
Yeah.
And it shows, concern. And I think that's very, very important, is concern. But being careful, because what do you do when someone says to you that they're thinking of committing suicide,
right,
or that their child is doing drugs? And, how do you deal with those issues there? Which is why I think training is extremely important.
Yeah.
To be prepared for what to say. You don't wing it, but be prepared. That recognize, even for the client, for the financial advisors who are out there listening right now, and who've never had a client open up in these ways, well, chances are sometime in the near future a client will open up, because we found most financial advisors do have clients that open up in these ways and reveal all these issues. And you should be prepared. What are you going to say to these people when they bring up these types of issues?
Yes. When I worked internally at a firm, we also we did some training on our team for what about when someone calls and says that a loved one passed away? Like, how do you respond? Because that happens, pretty frequently for financial advisors.
It's now with the with Googling. Admittedly, on more than one situation, I've Googled, what do you say to someone when they tell you this?
Yeah.
And just to get some ideas on how to express yourself.
Yeah. You and Lyle both wrote a great article called "Smart People Doing Stupid Things." And something that stood out to me about this article is that advisors have financial biases just like their clients. Can you talk a bit about how an advisor should mitigate the influence of their biases?
We wrote 3 essays on 3 particular behavioral biases, and they were loss aversion, confirmation bias, and overconfidence. And we referenced some others' research, academic research, that found that advisors are plagued by these same biases as their clients are plagued. So are financial advisors overconfident? Yes, a lot of them are. A lot of them believe they can deliver more than they really can deliver. They have overconfidence. A lot of advisors seek out, we all do this, we seek out opinions that confirm and agree with what we believe, rather than seeking out alternative views and saying, well, these people, they believe passionately in their views. Maybe they are saying something that's useful. So you've got to open up your mind, and that's, you've got to have an open mind. That's one way of dealing with these biases. Solicit other people's opinions, listen to them, ask people to play the devil's advocate, and tell me why I'm wrong here, and just listen to them. Certainly be careful how you frame your questions, because you can frame your questions in a negative mode or a gain mode, and recognize that the responses you get are going to be different. But listening, provide educating self by taking courses, being self-aware that you have these biases. So one way of recognizing that you're overconfident is write down today what you think is going to happen in the future. And then 6 months from now, a year from now, go back and look and say, what did I, because people's memories, they lose it. And in the end, they're going to say, yeah, I knew that a year ago. And they didn't know. They had a 180-degree opposite view. And so write down what you think and then go back and review and see whether you were really right. And you're going to learn that you were right a lot less often than you think. So you need some humility here.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right, we're coming right around that 30-minute mark. So here's my last question. You're on a mission to increase financial literacy and help people achieve total wealth. What is the one thing you want to see advisors do differently this year?
Yeah. Well, the flip answer is give them a copy of our book. But, I think beyond that, I mean, well, yes, giving the gift of financial literacy to your clients ought to understand you. And you have to really be careful how you talk to your clients when you're using financial jargon, and be sure that they understand the implications of the words, the financial terms you're using. Don't take that for granted. As a former professor, retired professor, I could tell you that a lot of my students that got their degrees still don't know anything about finance, even though we beat it into them, over and over and over again. Don't take that for granted. So in terms of one thing is difficult, but giving financial literacy, the gift of financial literacy to your clients, and recognize that your job is not only to have your clients make money, it's also, whether you like it or not, to let them reach their life's goals and be happy and live a happy, fulfilling life. And if there's one thing I would say that financial planners in particular should do, is to learn how to listen, learn how to be empathetic, and be prepared when clients bring up sensitive problems that they are facing in their lives.
Yeah, because they will.
And they will.
That's what I took away from this.
Yes. Sooner or later, it's going to happen to every financial planner out there. And be prepared for what you're going to say when your clients open up to you.
Yeah. David, thank you so much. This was really beneficial. And to our audience watching, make sure to check out Lyle and David's book, Your Total Wealth, at the following link. Actually, it's a QR code. At the following QR code at the top of the screen.
Up there.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As a reminder, we're hosting AUM every Monday this year, except for Mondays with holidays. Except for Mondays with holidays, which next Monday happens to be Martin Luther King Day. So enjoy the holiday and join me in 2 weeks as we talk with Lauren Cabello from Leverage with Media PR about how you can promote that book that you're writing this year. As always, get savvy and stay savvy.